The screen of my phone glowed with a number that made my stomach drop. $0. I blinked, refreshed the banking app, and watched the same zero appear again. Then I checked my savings account. 0. My investment account. 0. The joint account Derek and I shared for household expenses. 0. Every single account I had worked 12 years to build showed the same empty balance. My hands started shaking as I sat in my car outside our house in the quiet suburb of Riverside. I had left work early because of a migraine, but the pounding in my head was nothing compared to the sick feeling spreading through my chest. This couldn't be real. There had to be a mistake. Banks made errors all the time, didn't they? I called the bank, my voice surprisingly steady despite the panic rising in my throat. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm looking at your accounts now," the representative said after I verified my identity 3 times. "It appears there were several large transfers made over the past 6 months, with the final transfer of $43,000 executed yesterday at 3 p.m. Transfers? To where? I didn't authorize any transfers." There was a pause. "Ma'am, according to our records, these transfers were all made through your online banking portal using your login credentials. The funds were moved to an account at Sterling National Bank." "I didn't have an account at Sterling National Bank. Can you tell me the name on the receiving account?" My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Patterson. For security reasons, I can only confirm that the transfers were made with your authorization credentials. You would need to contact Sterling National directly or file a fraud report if you believe these transactions were unauthorized." After I hung up, I sat in the car for 20 minutes staring at nothing. 12 years. 12 years I had worked as a hospital administrator, putting in 60-hour weeks, building a safety net, planning for a future. Gone. All of it gone. But the money wasn't what made my hands shake. It was the calculation behind it. The planning. The deliberate, methodical theft of everything I had built. Someone had done this to me. Someone with access to my accounts, my passwords, my life. I finally walked into my house, forcing my face into a neutral expression. The television was on in the living room. Derek sat on our cream-colored sofa, his laptop open, typing away. He looked up when I entered, his handsome face breaking into the smile that had made me fall in love with him 15 years ago. "Hey baby, you're home early," he said, closing his laptop quickly. Too quickly. "How was work?" "Rough day," I managed. "I have a headache. I'm going to lie down. Want me to make you some tea?" He stood up, all concern and attention. The perfect husband. "No, thank you. I just need to rest." I walked upstairs to our bedroom, my mind racing. I had paid all the bills last month from my checking account. How had I not noticed the balance dropping? But then I remembered, I hadn't checked my accounts in almost 3 weeks. I had been so busy at work with the hospital expansion project that I had barely logged into my banking apps. That wasn't an accident, I realized with sudden clarity. Derek had been the one suggesting I work late, take on extra projects, volunteer for that hospital committee. He had been keeping me busy and distracted. I opened my laptop and logged into my email. I searched for bank notifications. There were none. Not a single alert about the transfers. I checked my spam folder. Nothing. Someone had changed my notification settings. My heart pounded as I opened my banking app again and went through the transfer history. The first transfer had been made 6 months ago. $5,000. Then another 2 weeks later. $7,000. Then $10,000. The amounts had gotten larger and more frequent over time, like someone testing to see if I would notice. The final transfer yesterday had cleaned out everything that remained. I searched my email for Sterling National Bank and found a confirmation email from 4 months ago, buried in my promotions folder. "Thank you for opening your new account," it read. I clicked on the account details and felt my blood run cold. The account was in my name, but I had never opened it. Someone had forged my signature on the application. And then I saw it. The joint account holder listed on the Sterling National account. Derek Patterson and Vanessa Cole. Vanessa. Derek's colleague from his accounting firm. The woman he had mentioned casually over dinner a few times. The one he sometimes grabbed coffee with during lunch. The one whose name appeared in his phone contacts under V. Cole Work. I sat there on my bed, staring at that name, and something inside me shifted. The shock faded. The panic settled. What replaced it was something cold and clear and sharp. They had stolen from me. Together. They had planned this, executed it, and thought I was too busy, too trusting, too stupid to notice. I heard Derek's footsteps on the stairs. I closed my laptop and laid down, closing my eyes. He opened the bedroom door quietly. "Simone? You okay?" "Just sleeping," I mumbled. He stood there for a moment and I could feel him watching me. Then he closed the door and went back downstairs. I lay there in the dim afternoon light filtering through the curtains, my mind working through everything. The late nights Derek had been working. The weekend business trips. The new clothes I had noticed in his closet that he said were for client meetings. The expensive cologne. The way he had been so encouraging about my career lately, pushing me to focus on work, to go after that promotion, to not worry about things at home. He had been setting me up. And Vanessa had been right there beside him, helping him steal everything I had worked for. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Going to grab dinner with some guys from work. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at that love you for a long time. Then I got up, walked to the window and watched his car pull out of the driveway. They thought they had won. They thought I would discover the empty accounts and fall apart, and by then they would be gone with my money, starting their new life together somewhere far away. They had no idea what they had just started. I picked up my phone and made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. My college roommate, Patricia, who was now a partner at one of the best law firms in the state. Patricia? It's Simone. I need your help, and I need you to keep this completely confidential. Of course, she said, her voice immediately serious. What happened? My husband and his mistress just stole everything from me, I said calmly. And I'm going to take everything from them. That night, Derek came home smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He kissed my forehead, told me he loved me, and fell asleep beside me like nothing was wrong. I lay awake in the darkness, my mind already 3 steps ahead, planning every move. They wanted to destroy me quietly, thinking I was too weak or too blind to fight back. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. The game had begun and they didn't even know they were playing. The morning after my discovery, I woke up before Derek and went through my usual routine. I made coffee, prepared breakfast, and kissed him goodbye as he left for work, just like I had done for 12 years. His smile was easy, relaxed. He had no idea. As soon as his car disappeared around the corner, I called in sick to work. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't going to the hospital. I had more important things to do. Patricia arrived at my house 30 minutes later with a leather briefcase and a grim expression. She had always been the serious one in college, the one who planned everything down to the minute. Now, seeing her in her expensive suit and perfectly styled hair, I was grateful for her intensity. Before we start, she said, settling onto my couch, I need to know everything. Don't leave out any detail, no matter how small. I told her about the empty accounts, the forged bank documents, Vanessa's name on the Sterling National account. I showed her my phone records, my emails, everything I had found. Patricia took notes on her tablet, her face growing darker with each revelation. This isn't just infidelity, Simone. This is fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. We're talking about serious criminal charges. I want to handle this right, I said. I don't want them to see me coming. She looked up at me and something like respect flickered in her eyes. Smart. If you confront them now, they'll hide the evidence and run. We need to document everything first, build an airtight case. We spent the next 3 hours going through my financial records. Patricia showed me how to request detailed transaction reports from my bank without alerting anyone. She helped me file initial reports with the fraud departments, making sure to document every single unauthorized transaction. Now comes the hard part, Patricia said. You need to act completely normal around Derek. Can you do that? I thought about the man I had loved, the man who had held me when my mother died, who had promised me forever. Then I thought about him plotting with Vanessa, laughing as they drained my accounts, planning their escape. Yes, I said. I can do that. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own life. I installed a discreet tracking app on my laptop that recorded every keystroke. When Derek used my computer to check his email, something he did often, I captured everything. His passwords, his private messages, his plans. What I found made my blood boil. Derek and Vanessa had been having an affair for 2 years. 2 years. And the financial theft had been Vanessa's idea. I read through their messages, each one like a knife to my chest. She'll never notice, Vanessa had written 6 months ago. She's always at that hospital. Too busy saving lives to watch her own bank account. Derek's response, you're brilliant, baby. By the time she figures it out, we'll be in Costa Rica with enough money to live like royalty. There were photos. Them on vacation together while I worked overtime at the hospital. Them at expensive restaurants I couldn't afford because I was saving money for our future. A future Derek had no intention of sharing with me. Them in an apartment I had never seen. The apartment. That was the detail that made everything click into place. I tracked the address from one of their messages. It was a luxury condo downtown, 20 minutes from our house. The lease was in Derek's name, but the rental payments came from my accounts. They had been using my money to fund their secret life together. I sat in my car outside that building one afternoon, staring up at the 20th floor where they played house with my stolen money. Every instinct screamed at me to march up there and confront them. But Patricia's voice echoed in my head, evidence first, emotion later. So instead I took photos. I documented the building, the entrance, everything. Then I drove home and made dinner for my cheating husband, smiling as he told me about his boring day at the office. The bank statements Patricia helped me obtain revealed something even worse. Derek hadn't just been stealing from me. He had been stealing from his own company, embezzling small amounts over the past year and hiding them in offshore accounts. Vanessa, who worked in the same firm's accounting department, had been helping him cover his tracks. "This is bigger than I thought," Patricia said when I showed her what I had found. "Derek isn't just a cheating husband. He's a criminal. What do I do?" She leaned back in her chair, thinking. "We have two options. We can go to the police right now with what we have, or we can wait and gather more evidence. The more we have, the harder it is for them to wriggle out of the consequences." I knew what I wanted. I want everything. Patricia nodded slowly. "Then we need to be strategic. We need to document every single thing they do wrong. Every transfer, every lie, every piece of evidence that they're planning to run." "How long?" "A month. Maybe 2. Can you handle living with him for that long?" I thought about it. Living with a man I now despised, pretending everything was fine, sharing a bed with someone who was actively destroying my life. The old Simone would have said no. But I wasn't the old Simone anymore. "I can handle it." Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. During the day, I went to work and performed my job perfectly, giving no indication that anything was wrong. My colleagues complimented me on how focused I seemed. My boss praised my recent project proposals. At night, I came home and played the role of the devoted wife. I asked Derek about his day. I laughed at his jokes. I held his hand during dinner. And all the while, I was documenting everything. I found Derek's second phone, the one he used to communicate with Vanessa. I copied everything on it while he was in the shower. I found receipts for jewelry I had never received. I found plane tickets to Costa Rica scheduled for 3 weeks from now. One-way tickets for 2 people. They were planning to leave soon. Very soon. One evening, I found Derek packing a bag in the back of our closet. He didn't know I was watching. The bag contained new clothes, travel documents, and a flash drive. When he left for work the next day, I checked the flash drive. It contained copies of all my financial information, passwords to accounts he thought I didn't know about, and detailed instructions Vanessa had written on how to access the offshore accounts where they had hidden my money. They had planned everything. Every detail. Every step. They thought they were so clever. I copied the flash drive and put it back exactly as I had found it. That night, Patricia came over while Derek was supposedly working late. She reviewed everything I had gathered. "This is incredible work, Simone," she said, genuine admiration in her voice. "You have enough evidence here to bury them both legally. But I have to ask, are you sure you want to keep going? What you're doing, the emotional toll of pretending every day." "I'm sure," I said. I didn't tell her that the pretending had become easy, that something inside me had turned off like a switch. The woman who had loved Derek was gone. What remained was someone harder, colder, more focused. "There's something else," Patricia said carefully. I did some digging into Vanessa's background. "She's done this before." My head snapped up. "What?" 2 years ago in another state. She had a relationship with a married man, convinced him to give her access to his accounts and cleaned him out. He filed charges, but she disappeared before the police could arrest her. Changed her name, moved here, started over. Derek doesn't know this? I doubt it. She's good at what she does. This is her pattern. Find a vulnerable target, gain their trust, take everything and vanish. I felt a strange satisfaction at this information. Derek thought he was the clever one, the one in control. He had no idea he was just another mark in Vanessa's long line of victims. "Can we use this?" I asked. "Absolutely. It establishes a pattern of behavior. It makes the case against both of them much stronger." I looked at the folders of evidence spread across my dining room table. Bank statements, screenshots, photos, recordings. Everything I needed to prove what they had done to me. "We're ready, aren't we?" I asked. Patricia smiled, sharp and fierce. "Almost. There's one more thing we need. We need to catch them in the act of trying to access the offshore accounts. That's when we'll have them completely." "How do we do that?" We wait for them to make their move. According to the messages you showed me, they're planning to transfer the offshore money to new accounts next week, right before they leave for Costa Rica. When they do that, we'll have proof of active money laundering, not just theft. I nodded. One more week of pretending. One more week of lying next to a man who had betrayed me in every possible way. I could do this. That night, Derek came home late, smelling like perfume again. He kissed me and told me he loved me. I kissed him back and said the same words, and they meant nothing. In 7 days, his whole world would come crashing down. And I would be the one holding the hammer. 7 days. That's how long I had to prepare for the moment when Derek and Vanessa would make their final move. 7 days to make sure everything was perfect. I started by opening new bank accounts at a different bank, one Derek knew nothing about. Patricia helped me set them up with maximum security protocols. Then I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I changed my direct deposit at work. Mrs. Patterson, this is unusual, my HR representative said, looking at the change request. You've been with First National for over a decade. Is everything all right? I gave her my best smile, the one I had been practicing. Everything's fine. I'm just looking for better interest rates. You know how it is. She processed the paperwork, and just like that, my paychecks would start going to accounts Derek couldn't access. It was a small move, but it felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The next step was harder. I needed to document Derek's movements without him knowing. Patricia connected me with a private investigator named Gabriel, a quiet man in his 50s who had worked with her firm on dozens of cases. I just need photos and locations, I told him. Evidence of where he goes, who he meets, what they do. Gabriel nodded, making notes. I'll need a retainer of $3,000. I hesitated. $3,000 was a lot, especially now. But then I thought about the $180,000 Derek and Vanessa had stolen from me. $3,000 was nothing. Done. Over the next 5 days, Gabriel sent me regular reports. Photos of Derek meeting Vanessa at the downtown apartment. Videos of them loading suitcases into her car. Screenshots of Derek withdrawing large amounts of cash from an ATM, my cash from my accounts, that he somehow still had access to. Each piece of evidence was another nail in his coffin. At home, I maintained my performance. I asked Derek about wedding plans for his cousin's upcoming ceremony. I discussed vacation ideas for next summer, knowing he would be in custody by then. I even suggested we start trying for a baby soon, something we had talked about for years. That last one made Derek's face go pale. Let's wait a bit longer, he said quickly. I want to make sure we're financially stable first. Financially stable. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. I found Derek in his office one evening on the phone. He didn't see me in the doorway. No, she has no idea, he was saying quietly. She's been stressed about work. By the time she notices, we'll be gone. Yes, I transferred the last of it yesterday. Patricia said, what? No, that's my wife's old college friend. They haven't talked in years. My blood went cold. They knew about Patricia. Or at least they knew her name had come up somehow. I stepped back silently and went upstairs, my mind racing. I called Patricia from my new phone, the one I had bought with cash specifically for these conversations. They might know about you, I said without preamble. I figured they would eventually. How? I don't know. But Derek mentioned your name on the phone just now. There was a pause. Okay. This actually works in our favor. If they think I'm a threat, they might move up their timeline. That means they'll make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The desperate kind. The kind that leave evidence everywhere. Trust me, Simone. We want them panicking. She was right. Over the next 2 days, Derek became noticeably anxious. He checked his phone constantly. He had whispered arguments with Vanessa that he thought I couldn't hear. He started moving money around more frantically, trying to hide his tracks. And I documented everything. I found the key to a storage unit in Derek's jacket pocket. The next day, while he was at work, I went to the facility. Unit 247 was packed with boxes of my belongings, jewelry I thought I had lost, important documents that had disappeared, even photo albums from my childhood. They had been stealing more than just money. They had been erasing me piece by piece, getting ready to leave no trace behind. I photographed everything and left it exactly as I found it. That evening, I received an email on my new private account. It was from Sterling National Bank's fraud department, responding to the report Patricia had filed on my behalf. They confirmed that the account opened in my name was fraudulent. They confirmed that the signatures were forged. They confirmed that they were launching an internal investigation. The walls were closing in on Derek and Vanessa, and they didn't even know it yet. 3 days before their scheduled flight to Costa Rica, I came home to find Derek pacing in the living room, his phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call abruptly when he saw me. "Everything okay?" I asked, setting down my bag. "Fine. Just work stuff." But his hands were shaking. Something had happened. Something had made him nervous. I found out what it was later that night. Gabriel sent me a report. Derek's accounting firm had started an internal audit. Someone had noticed discrepancies in the books. They hadn't connected it to Derek yet, but they would soon. Very soon. Derek's theft from his company was about to be exposed, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. I watched him that night as he sat on the couch, pretending to watch television. His jaw was clenched. His leg bounced nervously. He kept checking his phone, waiting for messages that would tell him what to do. For the first time since discovering the theft, I felt something other than anger. I felt pity. This man had thrown away 15 years of marriage, his career, his freedom, all for money and a woman who had probably done this to other men before him. He had traded everything for nothing. "Want to order dinner?" I asked, sitting beside him. He looked at me, and for just a moment, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Then he covered it with a smile. "Sure. Whatever you want." We ordered pizza and ate in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. Derek was probably wondering how to escape. I was counting down the hours until everything fell apart. 2 days before the Costa Rica flight, Vanessa made a mistake. She called my phone. My actual phone, the one Derek thought I never checked. "Hello." I answered, my heart pounding. Silence. Then, "Sorry, wrong number." She hung up. But it wasn't a wrong number. She had been trying to check something, maybe to see if I was really as clueless as Derek said. She had been sloppy, nervous. Good. Nervous people made more mistakes. I called Patricia immediately. "They're rattled," I said. "Whatever's happening at Derek's work has them scared." "Good. That means tomorrow we make our move." "Tomorrow?" "But they're not leaving until the day after." "Exactly. We move before they do. We file the police report, the fraud claims, everything. We hit them before they even get on that plane." My stomach twisted with anxiety and anticipation. "Are you sure we have enough?" "Simone, we have more than enough. We have bank records, screenshots, witness testimony from the PI, proof of the storage unit, evidence of embezzlement from his company, and Vanessa's criminal history. We could convict them twice over with what we have." "Then let's do it." That night was the longest of my life. I lay next to Derek, listening to him breathe, knowing it was the last night he would sleep in this house as a free man. I thought about all the nights I had trusted him, loved him, believed in the future we were building together. All of it had been a lie. But I had built something new on the ruins of that lie. I had built a case, a plan, a future where I didn't need Derek or his promises. I had built my own strength. Derek's alarm went off at 6 a.m. He got up, showered, got dressed for work. I made him coffee and breakfast, same as always. "Have a good day," I said, kissing his cheek. "You too, baby. Love you." "Love you too." He walked out the door, got in his car, and drove away. 3 hours later, 2 police detectives showed up at his office with a warrant for his arrest. By noon, Vanessa was in custody too. And I was sitting in Patricia's office, watching it all unfold through phone calls and updates, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The game was over. And I had won. The morning Derek was arrested, I went to work like nothing had changed. I attended my meetings, responded to emails, and reviewed patient care reports. When my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, I stepped into my office and closed the door. "Both in custody," Patricia's message read. "It's happening." I sat down at my desk, my hands surprisingly steady. After weeks of planning, of pretending, of building my case in secret, the moment had finally arrived. Derek and Vanessa were being questioned by police right now. They were being confronted with evidence they didn't know existed. My phone rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. 5 times in 10 minutes. I turned my phone off and went back to work. At 3 p.m., Patricia called me on the office line. "Can you come to my office? There are some things we need to discuss." I told my assistant I had an appointment and drove to Patricia's law firm downtown. She met me in a private conference room with Gabriel, the private investigator, and another woman I didn't recognize. "Simone, this is Detective Rachel Morris. She's been assigned to your case." Detective Morris was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. "Mrs. Patterson, thank you for coming in. I want you to know that the evidence you and your attorney provided has been invaluable. We've been able to charge both Derek Patterson and Vanessa Cole with multiple felonies." I sat down, my legs suddenly weak. Hearing it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. What happens now? I asked. Right now they're both being processed. Derek's bail hearing is tomorrow morning. Vanessa's is tomorrow afternoon. Given the flight risk, they had one-way tickets to Costa Rica. We're going to argue for no bail or very high bail. Can they make bail? Detective Morris glanced at Patricia. That depends on several factors. But here's where it gets interesting. When we arrested Vanessa, we found something unexpected. She slid a folder across the table to me. Inside were documents showing multiple bank accounts I had never seen before, all under different names. But the photos attached to each account were of Vanessa. She's been running cons for at least 5 years, Detective Morris explained. 4 different identities across 3 states. We've identified at least 6 other victims. One of them lost his entire retirement savings. Another lost his business. I stared at the documents, a strange feeling settling over me. Derek had thought he was using Vanessa, but she had been using him. Does Derek know about this? I asked. Not yet, but he will. We'll be questioning him again tomorrow, and we'll be asking him about his relationship with her. Sometimes when co-conspirators realize they've been played, they start talking. They make deals. Patricia leaned forward. Which brings us to what happens next. Derek will probably try to contact you. He'll want to explain, to apologize, to convince you to drop the charges. I can't drop the charges, can I? No. These are criminal charges. The state is prosecuting them, not you. But Derek doesn't know that. He'll think if he can get to you, if he can manipulate you, things will go away. He can't manipulate me anymore. Good. Because you need to be prepared for what's coming. This is going to be public. Derek's arrest at his office means his colleagues know. The charges will be in the newspaper. People will ask questions. I hadn't thought about that part. I had been so focused on building the case, on making sure Derek and Vanessa faced consequences, that I hadn't considered what it would mean for my own life. What should I say? Nothing, Patricia said firmly. You say nothing to anyone except me and Detective Morris. Not to Derek's family, not to mutual friends, not to reporters if they call. Nothing. Let the evidence speak for itself. Detective Morris added, and Mrs. Patterson, you should also know that Derek's employer, Montgomery Financial, is pressing their own charges against him. The embezzlement from the company is substantial. Over $200,000 over 18 months. I did the math in my head. Derek had stolen from me and from his company. Between the two, he and Vanessa had taken nearly $400,000. Can I get my money back? We've frozen the accounts we identified. The offshore accounts, the Sterling National account, everything. We'll start the process of asset recovery, but it takes time. Months, maybe longer. But I will get it back? Most of it, yes. Though some of it may have already been spent. I thought about the luxury apartment, the expensive dinners, the jewelry I found receipts for. They had lived well on my money. There's one more thing, Gabriel said, speaking for the first time. He pulled out his laptop and turned it toward me. I kept monitoring Vanessa's communications after the arrest. She made one phone call from the station before they took her phone. He pressed play on an audio file. Vanessa's voice came through the speakers, sharp and angry. Listen, I don't care what you have to do. Get me out of here. Use the emergency account, the one in Nevada. The password is butterfly77. There's 50,000 in there. Get me a lawyer, get me bail, and for God's sake, don't call Derek. He's useless now. The call ended. Gabriel looked at me. She made that call to a number registered to a man named Thomas Griffin in Las Vegas. I did some checking. He's been arrested twice for fraud. I think he might be her partner, or at least someone who helps her run these cons. Detective Morris was already making notes. We'll follow up on this. If there's another account we haven't found, we need to freeze it immediately. The meeting continued for another hour. They explained the legal process, the timeline, what to expect in the coming weeks. My head spun with information about arraignments and discovery and plea deals. Finally, Patricia walked me out to my car. How are you really doing? She asked. I thought about it. I should have been devastated. I should have been crying, falling apart, questioning everything. But I wasn't. I'm angry, I said honestly. But I'm also relieved. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. You were living with a lie. Now you know the truth. What happens if Derek tries to come to the house? He won't. Part of his bail conditions, if he makes bail, will be no contact with you. If he violates that, he goes straight back to jail. I drove home as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The house was empty when I arrived. Derek's car wasn't in the driveway. His keys weren't on the hook by the door. For the first time in 12 years, I was completely alone in this house. I walked through each room seeing it differently now. The couch where Derek had sat and lied to my face. The kitchen where I had made him dinner while he planned to abandon me. The bedroom where he had slept beside me while stealing my future. I started in the bedroom. I pulled all of Derek's clothes out of the closet and piled them in the hallway. His shoes, his suits, his casual wear. Everything. Then I moved to the bathroom, clearing out his toiletries. Then his office, packing up his computer, his files, his books. It took me 3 hours to erase every trace of him from my house. I piled everything in the garage, called a junk removal service, and scheduled them to come tomorrow. My phone, which I had turned back on, showed 37 missed calls from Derek. 23 text messages. All of them variations of the same thing. Please call me. I can explain. It's not what you think. I love you. I blocked his number and deleted every message without reading them fully. Then I called a locksmith and had every lock in the house changed. New front door, new back door, new garage code. Everything. By midnight I was exhausted. But as I lay in my bed now, not ours, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Derek had thought he could take everything from me and disappear. He had thought I was weak, distracted, easy to fool. He was learning how wrong he had been. And this was only the beginning. Derek made bail the next afternoon. The judge set it at $100,000, which meant he needed to come up with $10,000 for the bail bondsman. I heard about it through Patricia, who heard it from Detective Morris. His parents put up their house as collateral, Patricia told me over the phone. They're convinced he's innocent. Did you tell them about the evidence? That's not my job. But trust me, they'll find out soon enough. Derek's parents had always loved me. His mother had called me her daughter, had helped me plan our wedding, had been there when I miscarried 3 years ago. I wondered what they thought now, whether Derek had told them some story where he was the victim. I pushed the thought away. Their relationship with their son wasn't my concern anymore. That evening, Derek came to the house. I watched through the window as he tried his key in the front door lock. When it didn't work, he tried the back door. Then he started knocking, calling my name. I didn't answer. I sat in the living room with my new phone in my hand, ready to call the police if he didn't leave. After 20 minutes, he finally drove away. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Simone, please. I know you're angry, but we need to talk. I can explain everything. This is all a misunderstanding. I blocked that number too. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Derek's attorney. It was professionally worded, but the message was clear. Derek wanted to meet with me to discuss the situation and hoped we could resolve this matter amicably. I forwarded it to Patricia without responding. She called me immediately. Good. Don't respond to anything from his lawyer. Don't respond to him. Don't respond to his family. Nothing. What's he trying to do? He's trying to figure out how much you know. He's trying to gauge whether you'll be a problem for his defense. Right now, he's probably still hoping you'll feel sorry for him and back off. That's not going to happen. I know. But he doesn't know that yet. The first crack in Derek's carefully constructed life appeared 3 days later. Montgomery Financial released a statement announcing that they had terminated Derek's employment and were cooperating fully with law enforcement regarding financial irregularities. The local newspaper picked up the story. Former Montgomery Financial accountant arrested for embezzlement, read the headline. Derek's professional photo stared out from the article, the same photo that used to make me proud. My phone started ringing. Friends, colleagues, people I hadn't talked to in years. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if the rumors were true, if I needed anything. I didn't answer. I let them all go to voicemail. But the calls kept coming. To my work phone now as people started digging. My boss called me into her office. Simone, I need to ask you something and please be honest with me. Are you safe? I looked at her in surprise. Yes. Why? Because there are news stories about your husband being arrested for theft and embezzlement, and I need to know if you're in danger or if you need time off or if there's anything we can do to support you. My boss was a kind woman named Helen who had mentored me for years. I realized she was genuinely worried. I'm safe, I said quietly. Derek and I are getting divorced. The things they're saying about him are true. I'm a victim in this too. Her expression softened. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I'm handling it. I have a good attorney. I'm going to be fine. If you need time off. I don't. Work is actually the only normal thing in my life right now. I need to be here. She nodded, understanding. Okay. But if that changes, you tell me immediately. The next crack came from Vanessa's side. Her bail was set even higher than Derek's, $200,000, because of her history and the interstate nature of her crimes. She couldn't make it. She sat in jail waiting for her preliminary hearing. According to Detective Morris, Vanessa was not handling it well. She had tried to call Derek multiple times, but he wasn't taking her calls. She had tried to contact the mysterious Thomas Griffin in Las Vegas, but he had disappeared. Her attorney had filed several motions, all of which were denied. She's starting to panic, Detective Morris told me and Patricia in another meeting. And when con artists panic, they start making deals. What kind of deals? I asked. She's offering to testify against Derek in exchange for a reduced sentence. She's claiming he was the mastermind, that she was coerced, that he forced her to help him steal from you. I almost laughed. That's ridiculous. The evidence shows this was her pattern long before she met Derek. We know that. But she's going to try. She'll say whatever she thinks will save her own skin. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Let her. The more she talks, the more she contradicts herself. And when Derek finds out she's trying to throw him under the bus, he might start talking too. That's exactly what happened. A week after Vanessa offered her deal, Derek's attorney reached out again. This time the email was different. Derek wanted to make a statement. He wanted to claim that Vanessa had manipulated him, that he had been in an affair, yes, but he hadn't known about the extent of her criminal activity. He was trying to save himself by blaming her just as she was blaming him. They were turning on each other exactly as we had hoped. But the unraveling wasn't just legal. Derek's entire life was falling apart in ways he couldn't control. His parents stopped posting photos of him on social media. His brother made a statement distancing himself from Derek's alleged actions. His friends stopped returning his calls. The members of his golf club quietly asked him not to return. His reputation, the thing he had cared about almost as much as money, was destroyed. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Derek had moved into a cheap apartment across town. His BMW had been repossessed. Apparently he had been 3 months behind on payments, using my money to cover his other expenses. His credit cards were maxed out. His bank accounts were frozen pending the criminal investigation. Everything he had stolen, everything he had built with my money was gone. One evening, Derek's mother called me. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Simone? It's Ellen. I said nothing, waiting. I wanted to call and say that I don't believe what they're saying about Derek. He's a good man. He would never do these things. There must be some mistake. There's no mistake, I said quietly. But Simone, you know him. You know he loves you. Whatever happened, I'm sure there's an explanation. Ellen, he stole from me. He and his mistress stole every cent I had. They were planning to leave the country. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is who your son really is. Silence. Then in a smaller voice, his mistress. You didn't know about Vanessa? He told us it was all about a business deal that went wrong. He said someone at work was framing him. He didn't mention another woman. I felt a strange sort of satisfaction. Derek was still lying even to his own mother. There's a lot Derek didn't tell you, I said. But you'll find out. It will all come out in court. Ellen started crying. I can't believe this. I can't believe my son would. I couldn't believe it either, I said. But it's true. All of it. I hung up and sat in the silence of my house, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. Just emptiness where Derek used to be. My phone buzzed with another text from another unknown number. But this time it wasn't Derek. Stop this. Drop the charges. You don't know who you're messing with. I stared at the message, my heart suddenly pounding. I called Patricia immediately. I just got a threatening text. Forward it to me right now. And then forward it to Detective Morris. Don't respond to it. Within an hour, I had police protection outside my house. Detective Morris traced the number to a burner phone, but the content of the threat was enough to take seriously. We think it might be Thomas Griffin, she said. Vanessa's associate. He's probably worried about what she might say about him. Am I in danger? We don't think so. This seems like an intimidation tactic. But we're taking precautions just in case. That night, I slept with my bedroom door locked and a bat beside my bed. Every sound made me jump. Every car that passed outside made me check the windows. For the first time since this began, I felt truly afraid. But I didn't back down. I didn't drop anything. I didn't respond to threats or pleas or bribes. I had started this and I was going to finish it. The unraveling had only just begun. The first week of December brought a cold snap that froze the streets and made everything sharp and brittle. I felt the same way, frozen and sharp, waiting for the next move. Derek's preliminary hearing was scheduled for December 15th. Vanessa's was 2 days later. Both of them would appear before a judge who would determine if there was enough evidence to proceed to trial. There was more than enough evidence. But that didn't stop Derek from trying one last desperate move. He showed up at my workplace. I was in a meeting with the hospital's chief of staff when my assistant interrupted, her face pale. "Simone, there's someone here to see you. He says it's urgent. Security is with him." I knew immediately who it was. "Tell security to escort him off the property," I said calmly. "If he refuses, call the police. He's violating his bail conditions by being here." 10 minutes later, Patricia called. "Derek just got arrested again. He violated the no-contact order. Judge is not going to be happy." "Good. Simone, you need to be careful. Derek is getting desperate. Desperate people do stupid things." But Derek's stupidity was working in my favor. His second arrest meant his bail was revoked. He was back in custody, sitting in a cell with no way to manipulate or threaten or plead his case to me. Vanessa, meanwhile, had finally found someone to post her bail. She was released 2 days before her hearing, with strict conditions and an ankle monitor. According to Detective Morris, she immediately tried to leave town. The ankle monitor alerted authorities and she was picked up at a bus station, trying to buy a ticket to Arizona with a fake ID. "She's done," Detective Morris said with satisfaction. "No judge is going to give her bail again after this. She'll sit in jail until trial." Both of them were unraveling, their plans falling apart, their lies catching up with them. And I watched it all happen with cold satisfaction. But the walls weren't just closing in on Derek and Vanessa. They were closing in on Thomas Griffin too. Police in Nevada had finally located him. He was arrested on multiple fraud charges related to Vanessa's past cons. When they searched his apartment, they found evidence of at least 10 different scams, involving dozens of victims across the country. The scope of Vanessa's operation was bigger than anyone had realized. She hadn't been working alone. She had been part of a network, a group of con artists who targeted vulnerable people and cleaned them out systematically. Derek had thought he was special. He had thought his affair with Vanessa was real, that they were partners, that they were building a future together. He had no idea he was just another mark, another source of money for a professional criminal. When Detective Morris showed Derek the evidence of Vanessa's other victims, of Thomas Griffin, of the full extent of her criminal enterprise, he broke down completely. He cried, Patricia told me after attending Derek's interview as my representative. He actually cried and said he didn't know. He said he thought she loved him. "Did you believe him?" She paused. "About not knowing the full extent of Vanessa's operation? Maybe. About thinking she loved him? Yes, I think he believed that. Which makes him an idiot but not necessarily less guilty. Because the truth was, even if Derek had been fooled by Vanessa, he had still chosen to steal from me. He had still chosen to betray our marriage. He had still chosen to drain my accounts and plan to abandon me. Vanessa might have suggested it, but Derek had agreed. He had participated willingly. He was as guilty as she was. The preliminary hearings came and went. Both Derek and Vanessa were bound over for trial. The judges found overwhelming probable cause to believe they had committed the crimes they were charged with. Derek's trial was scheduled for March. Vanessa's for April. "That's fast," I said to Patricia. "They're both facing serious charges with extensive evidence. Neither of them wants to drag this out. Derek's attorney is probably going to suggest a plea deal." "What kind of plea deal?" "Reduced sentence in exchange for testimony against Vanessa. Or full cooperation with asset recovery. Something that makes him look less like a villain." "Will he take it?" Patricia shrugged. "Would you if you were him?" I thought about it. If I were Derek, knowing everything that was coming, would I take a deal that meant admitting guilt but reducing prison time? Or would I roll the dice and hope a jury might believe my story? "I don't know," I admitted. "Well, we'll find out soon." Christmas came and went. I spent it alone in my house, which I had started redecorating. New paint colors, new furniture, removing every trace of the life Derek and I had built together. I was creating something new, something that was entirely mine. On New Year's Eve, Patricia called with news. Derek took a deal. My heart skipped. What kind of deal? He pleads guilty to theft and embezzlement. He agrees to testify against Vanessa. He cooperates fully with asset recovery. In exchange, the prosecution recommends 8 years with possibility of parole after 5. 8 years. Derek would be in prison for 8 years. What about Vanessa? Her trial is still going forward. With Derek testifying against her and Thomas Griffin cooperating from Nevada, She's looking at 15 to 20 years. I sat down, processing this information. It was over. Or it would be soon. Derek had admitted what he did. He was going to prison. Justice was being served. So why did I feel so empty? Simone? You still there? I'm here. When does he officially plead? Next week. And there's something else. Part of the deal includes Derek signing over any rights to the marital assets. The house, the cars, everything. It's all yours. Plus, the court has ordered him to pay full restitution. They've liquidated his retirement accounts, his investments, everything. You'll get about 70% of what was stolen back immediately. The rest will come gradually as they continue to seize assets. 70%. I was getting my money back. My house was mine. My life was mine. I had one. Thank you, I said to Patricia. For everything. You did this, Simone. You gathered the evidence, you stayed strong, you didn't back down. I just helped you make it legal. After we hung up, I walked through my house now truly mine. I looked at the new paint colors, the new furniture, the spaces where Derek's things used to be. This wasn't the future I had planned 5 months ago. This wasn't the life I had imagined. But it was mine. Every inch of it was mine. My phone buzzed with one final message from Derek's attorney. Mr. Patterson would like to send you a letter of apology. Would you be willing to receive it? I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Then I typed back, no. I blocked the number and deleted the message. Derek had already taken enough of my time, my energy, my trust. He wasn't getting another second. The walls had closed in completely. Both he and Vanessa were trapped in the consequences of their choices. And I was free. Finally, completely free. January brought harsh winds and bitter cold, but also a strange sense of clarity. Derek's official plea hearing was scheduled for January 10th, and I had decided to attend. Patricia advised against it. You don't need to be there, she said. It's going to be difficult to hear him allocate, to hear him describe what he did to you in legal terms. I want to be there. I need to see it end. So on a gray Thursday morning, I sat in the courtroom wearing a navy blue suit, my face carefully neutral, as Derek was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked terrible. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, his shoulders slumped. This wasn't the confident man I had married. This was someone who had lost everything. He saw me in the gallery. Our eyes met for just a moment and I saw him flinch. Then he looked away. The judge asked Derek if he understood the charges against him. He said yes. The judge asked if anyone had forced or coerced him into this plea agreement. He said no. The judge asked him to describe in his own words what he had done. And Derek, his voice barely above a whisper, confessed everything. I stole from my wife. I accessed her bank accounts without permission and transferred funds to accounts I controlled with another person. I forged documents. I lied to her repeatedly. I planned to leave the country with money that didn't belong to me. I also stole from my employer, Montgomery Financial, by falsifying records and embezzling company funds. The judge asked, "Why did you do these things?" Derek was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I was having an affair. I thought I was in love. I thought I could have a different life. I was wrong." "You were wrong," the judge agreed coldly. "And now you're going to pay for those choices. Mr. Patterson, I accept your guilty plea. Sentencing is scheduled for February 15th. Until then, you will remain in custody. Court is adjourned." It was over in less than 30 minutes. 12 years of marriage, 15 years of knowing each other, erased in a half-hour court proceeding. As the guards led Derek away, he looked back at me one more time. His mouth formed words I could see but not hear. "I'm sorry." I stood up and walked out of the courtroom without acknowledgement. Outside, Patricia was waiting. "How are you?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I thought I would feel something. Satisfaction maybe. Or anger. But I just feel tired." "That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for months. Now that it's winding down, the exhaustion catches up." She was right. That night, I slept for 12 hours straight, the deepest sleep I had had since discovering the empty bank accounts. Vanessa's trial began the first week of February. Unlike Derek, she had decided to fight the charges. Her public defender was young and earnest, but he was facing an impossible case. The prosecution laid out Vanessa's history systematically. They brought in her previous victims, 4 men from different states who had all lost substantial amounts of money to her schemes. They showed the pattern, the affair, the gradual access to finances, the fake emergencies that required money, the sudden disappearance. Derek was called to testify on the 3rd day of the trial. I watched from the gallery as he was sworn in, still in his jail uniform, looking smaller and older than I had ever seen him. The prosecutor asked him to describe his relationship with Vanessa. "We had an affair," Derek said, his voice flat. "It started 2 years ago at a company event. She was funny and exciting and made me feel like I was special." "When did the relationship become financial?" "About 6 months in. She started talking about how we could be together if we just had enough money to start over. She suggested taking money from my wife's accounts. She said Simone would never notice because she was always working." "Did you agree immediately?" Derek looked down at his hands. "No. At first I said no. But Vanessa kept bringing it up. She said Simone didn't appreciate me, that I deserved better. She made it sound like we were taking what was rightfully mine anyway since Simone and I were married." "When did you start actually stealing the money?" "Last June. Vanessa showed me how to do it. She had all the technical knowledge. She knew how to forge documents, how to move money without leaving obvious trails, how to change notification settings so Simone wouldn't get alerts." "Did you know Vanessa had done this before?" Derek's head snapped up. "No. I didn't find out about her past until after I was arrested. She told me she had been in a bad relationship before, that she understood what it was like to feel trapped. She never said she was a con artist." The defense attorney cross-examined Derek aggressively, trying to paint him as a liar trying to save himself by blaming Vanessa. But the evidence was overwhelming. The previous victims testified. Thomas Griffin testified from Nevada via video link, describing how Vanessa had been part of their operation for years. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Vanessa's face didn't change when the verdict was read. She sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead, as the judge ordered her remanded into custody pending sentencing. But as the guards led her out of the courtroom, she turned and looked directly at me in the gallery. Her expression was cold, calculating, empty of any emotion. She didn't look sorry or scared or angry. She looked like she was already planning her next move, her next con, her next victim. I held her gaze until she was out of sight. Patricia touched my arm. "It's over. She's going away for a long time." "Is it really over?" I asked. "Or will she just find new people to hurt when she gets out?" "That's not your problem anymore, Simone. You did what you needed to do. You protected yourself and probably prevented her from hurting others for at least the next 15 years. That's enough." I wanted to believe her. But as I left the courthouse that day, I couldn't shake the image of Vanessa's empty eyes looking at me. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't rehabilitated. She was just caught. And somewhere out there, Thomas Griffin's operation probably still existed, finding new con artists, new schemes, new victims. But Patricia was right. That wasn't my fight anymore. Derek's sentencing came 2 weeks later. I didn't attend this time. Patricia went in my place and called me after. 8 years as per the plea agreement, with possibility of parole after 5 if he maintains good behavior. The judge also ordered him to pay $100,000 in restitution beyond what's already been recovered, to cover your legal fees and emotional damages. Will he actually pay it? Eventually. They'll garnish any wages he earns in prison and any income he has after release until it's paid in full. What about Vanessa? 18 years. No possibility of parole for at least 12. The judge was harsh. He said she had shown a pattern of predatory behavior and showed no remorse. 18 years. Vanessa would be nearly 50 when she got out, assuming she served the minimum. I hung up and sat in my quiet house, processing everything. It was really over. Both of them were in prison. My money was being recovered. My life was my own again. But I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty. All those months of planning and evidence gathering and pretending had been focused on this moment. Now that it was here, I didn't know what to do with myself. That evening, I went through my house and took down the last remaining photos of Derek. I put them in a box along with his old mail, some books he had left behind, and a few other items that belonged to him. I taped the box shut, wrote his mother's address on it, and dropped it at the post office. I was done carrying any piece of him with me. When I got home, I stood in my living room and looked around. The house was nice. The furniture was comfortable. Everything was clean and organized. And I was completely alone. For the first time since discovering the theft, I allowed myself to cry. Not for Derek, not for the marriage I had lost, but for the future I had imagined that would never exist. The children we had talked about having. The trips we had planned. The quiet life we were supposed to grow old together in. All of it was gone, burned away by greed and betrayal and lies. I cried until I had nothing left. Then I washed my face, made myself dinner, and sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook. Who is Simone now? I wrote at the top of the page, and I began to figure out the answer. March arrived with unexpected sunshine and the first hints of spring. The daffodils I had planted in the fall were pushing through the ground, bright yellow promises of renewal. I spent my weekends gardening, pulling weeds, pruning bushes, and planning what else I wanted to grow. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects at the hospital, volunteering for committees, taking on additional responsibilities. My boss Helen noticed. "Simone, you're doing incredible work, but I need to make sure you're taking care of yourself too," she said during a check-in meeting. "I am," I assured her. "Work is good for me right now. It gives me purpose." "I understand. But I also want you to know that the board has been discussing creating a new position, Director of Patient Services. It's a significant promotion with a substantial raise. And they want to offer it to you." I stared at her in surprise. "Really? Really? You've shown exceptional leadership this past year, especially under difficult personal circumstances. You've handled everything with grace and professionalism. We'd be lucky to keep you on the team, and this is how we want to show our appreciation." The promotion came with a $40,000 raise and a corner office. I accepted immediately. The irony wasn't lost on me. Derek had stolen nearly $200,000 from me, but through the promotion and the recovered assets, I was actually going to end up financially better off than before he had stolen anything. My revenge had transformed into something unexpected: success. One evening in late March, I received an email from a woman named Teresa. The subject line read, "About Derek and Vanessa." I almost deleted it, but curiosity made me open it. "Dear Simone," it began. "My name is Teresa Diaz. I was one of Vanessa's victims before she moved to your state. I testified at her trial. I wanted to reach out to you personally to thank you." I kept reading. "When Vanessa conned me, I was too ashamed to fight back. I let her disappear with my money because I didn't want anyone to know how stupid I had been, falling for her lies. She took everything I had saved for my daughter's college education. When I heard that you had not only fought back but had gathered enough evidence to bring her down, I felt hope for the first time in years. You didn't just get justice for yourself. You got justice for all of us. Thank you." I sat with that email for a long time. I had been so focused on my own pain, my own anger, that I hadn't thought about Vanessa's other victims. But Teresa's words made me realize something important. My choice to fight back had mattered beyond my own life. I responded to Teresa, and over the following weeks, we exchanged several emails. She told me about her experience with Vanessa, about how the con had worked, about how long it had taken her to rebuild her life after. She also told me about a support group she had started for fraud victims in her area. "Have you considered starting something similar?" she asked. "You have a unique perspective and you could help a lot of people who are going through what you went through." I hadn't considered it, but the idea took root. In April, I attended my first meeting of a local fraud victim support group. There were 12 people there, all with different stories of being conned, scammed, or defrauded. Some had lost money to internet scams. Others had been victims of family members or friends who had stolen from them. A few had situations similar to mine, romantic partners who had betrayed them. I shared my story for the first time outside of the courtroom. I talked about discovering the empty accounts, about the months of gathering evidence, about the fear and anger and determination that had driven me forward. When I finished, a woman across the circle was crying. "I thought I was alone," she said. "I thought I was the only person stupid enough to let this happen." "You're not stupid," I said firmly. "The people who hurt us were skilled manipulators. They knew exactly what to say, how to gain trust, how to hide what they were doing. That doesn't make us stupid. That makes them criminals." After the meeting, several people approached me asking for advice, for help, for hope. I realized that my experience, as painful as it had been, had given me something valuable, knowledge that could help others. That's when the idea for the foundation started to form. I met with Patricia to discuss it. "I want to start a nonprofit organization that helps people who have been financially abused by partners or family members. I want to provide resources, legal aid, support, and education." Patricia's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. And I know several attorneys who would be willing to do pro bono work for something like that." "I have the money now," I said. "Between the promotion and the recovered assets, I can fund the startup costs. I just need help figuring out the logistics." Over the next 3 months, with Patricia's help and the support of a small group of volunteers, we established the Resilience Foundation. Our mission was to help victims of financial fraud and abuse fight back and rebuild their lives. We started small: a website with resources, a hotline staffed by volunteers, connections to legal aid organizations. But word spread quickly. Within 2 months, we were getting calls from across the state. People who needed help, people who needed hope, people who needed to know they weren't alone. I hired Teresa as our first full-time employee. She moved across the state to take the position, bringing her expertise and her passion for helping other victims. One day in June, I received a call from Detective Morris. "Simone, I wanted to update you on something. We've arrested 3 more members of Thomas Griffin's network. Your case and your evidence helped us build a larger investigation. We're taking down an entire fraud ring that's been operating for nearly a decade." "How many victims?" I asked. "At least 40 that we've identified so far. Probably more. But because of what you did, because you didn't back down and you gathered such thorough evidence, we've been able to stop them from hurting anyone else." After we hung up, I sat at my desk and looked around my new office at the Resilience Foundation. The walls were covered with thank you notes from people we had helped. The desk was piled with case files from people seeking assistance. The phone rang constantly with calls from victims who needed support. Derek had tried to destroy my life. He had stolen my money, betrayed my trust, and planned to abandon me. Instead, he had inadvertently given me a purpose I never would have found otherwise. He had pushed me to discover strength I didn't know I had. He had forced me to fight, and in fighting, I had found a way to help others do the same. The revelation wasn't that I had survived. It was that I had transformed. I was no longer the woman who had trusted blindly and worked quietly. I was someone who fought back, who helped others fight back, who refused to be a victim even when victimhood would have been understandable. Derek and Vanessa were both in prison, paying for their crimes. And I was free, building something meaningful from the ashes of what they had tried to burn down. That evening, I went home to my house. My beautiful, peaceful house that was completely mine. I made dinner, poured a glass of wine, and sat on my back porch watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a text from Teresa. "Just helped our 50th client today. None of this would exist without you. Thank you for turning your pain into purpose." I smiled and responded, "Thank you for helping me see that was possible." The sun set in shades of orange and pink, painting the sky with color. Tomorrow I would go back to work. I would help more people. I would continue building the foundation in my career and my life. But tonight I just sat in the quiet, at peace with where I was and who I had become. The revelation was complete. I had won not by destroying Derek and Vanessa, though they had certainly destroyed themselves, but by refusing to let their actions define me. I had taken control of my own story. And the ending was better than anything I could have imagined when I first saw that zero balance on my phone screen all those months ago. Summer arrived with humidity and long daylight hours. The Resilience Foundation had grown beyond my wildest expectations. We now had a small office space donated by a local business owner who had been a fraud victim herself. We had 5 full-time staff members and a rotating group of volunteers. We had helped over 100 people in just 4 months. Patricia's law firm had partnered with us, providing free legal consultations to our clients 1 day a week. Other attorneys in the area had started volunteering too, creating a network of legal support for people who couldn't afford to fight back on their own. My life had fallen into a new rhythm. Mornings at the hospital, working on patient services. Afternoons and evenings at the foundation, meeting with clients, coordinating with volunteers, planning educational workshops. It was exhausting, but it was purposeful. One Thursday afternoon, a woman named Bethany came to the foundation. She was about my age, African American with tired eyes and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "My boyfriend cleaned out our joint account last week," she said quietly. $30,000. It was everything I had saved to buy a house. He's gone. Changed his number, moved out of state. I filed a police report, but they said it's a civil matter since his name was on the account too. I listened to her story, hearing echoes of my own experience in her words. The trust, the betrayal, the feeling of being stupid for not seeing it coming. "You're not stupid," I told her, just as I had told dozens of others. "And you're not helpless. Let me show you what we can do." Teresa and I spent 2 hours with Bethany, walking her through her options. We connected her with an attorney who specialized in civil fraud cases. We helped her file complaints with the Banking Commission and the Attorney General's office. We showed her how to freeze her credit and protect her remaining assets. When Bethany left, she was crying, but they were different tears than when she had arrived. "Thank you," she said. "I came here thinking I just had to accept what happened. You gave me hope that I can fight back." After she left, Teresa looked at me. "Does it ever get easier? Hearing these stories?" "No," I admitted. "But it gets more bearable when you know you can help." The hospital promotion had opened new doors too. I was working on a patient advocacy program that would help patients navigate the complex medical billing system and protect them from predatory medical debt collectors. It was a natural extension of the work I was doing at the foundation. Helen called me into her office one day in July. "Simone, I've been asked to represent the hospital at a National Healthcare Administration conference in Chicago next month. I'd like you to come with me. There's a panel discussion on patient advocacy that I think you'd be perfect for." "You want me to speak on a panel?" "I want you to share what you've been building here. The patient advocacy program, the foundation work. You're doing something special, and other hospitals need to hear about it." So in August, I found myself in a conference hall in Chicago, speaking to a room of 300 healthcare administrators about protecting patients and victims of financial abuse. I talked about my own experience, about the foundation, about the importance of giving people the tools to fight back. After the panel, a dozen people approached me with questions. Several hospital administrators wanted to implement similar programs. 3 people asked if I would consult with their organizations. One woman, a hospital CEO, offered to fund an expansion of the Resilience Foundation into her state. I flew home feeling energized and hopeful. The work I was doing mattered. It was spreading beyond my own community, reaching people I would never meet, changing lives I would never directly touch. But not everything in the aftermath was positive. Derek's mother Ellen called me in September. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Simone, I know you probably don't want to talk to me," she began hesitantly, "but I wanted you to know that Derek's father passed away last week. Heart attack." I felt a pang of genuine sadness. Derek's father had always been kind to me. He didn't deserve to die with his son in prison. "I'm sorry, Ellen. He was a good man." He was. And he was heartbroken over what Derek did. I think that contributed to the heart attack, honestly. The stress, the shame. Her voice broke. Derek requested permission to attend the funeral. It was denied. "Ellen, I'm sorry for your loss. But I can't help with that." "I know. I'm not asking you to. I wanted you to know that Derek is suffering too. He's in a bad place, Simone. Prison is hard on him. He made choices that put him there." "I know. I'm not making excuses for him. I just thought you should know." After we hung up, I sat with complicated feelings. I didn't want Derek to suffer, not really. I just wanted him to face consequences for what he had done. But hearing about his father's death, about Derek missing the funeral, about the weight of his choices crushing his family, it was difficult. Patricia reminded me, as she often did, that sympathy and justice weren't mutually exclusive. "You can feel bad about the situation while still believing Derek deserved to be punished," she said. "That's called being human." In October, I received notice that Vanessa's appeal had been denied. She would serve her full sentence with no possibility of early release. Thomas Griffin had been sentenced to 22 years for his role in the fraud network. 3 others in their operation had also been convicted. The legal chapter was truly closed. But the personal chapter was still being written. One evening, I came home to find a package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a journal. My journal, the one I had kept during my marriage and had thought was lost. Derek must have had it in the storage unit. I opened it and read entries from years ago. "Derek surprised me with flowers today. I love him so much. Derek and I talked about baby names tonight. I can't wait to start a family with him. I'm so lucky to have found a partner who supports me." Reading my own words from before I knew the truth was painful. That version of Simone seemed so naive, so trusting, so blind to what was really happening. But she also seemed happy. And she had deserved to be happy. She had deserved a husband who loved her and was faithful to her and built a life with her instead of plotting to destroy it. I closed the journal and put it on a shelf. Not throwing it away, but not dwelling on it either. It was part of my history, but it wasn't my future. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. "Simone? This is Julian Morris. I was one of the attorneys who worked on your case with Patricia's firm." I remembered him vaguely, a tall man with kind eyes who had been present at several of the meetings but hadn't said much. "How can I help you, Julian? I actually wanted to ask if you'd be willing to meet for coffee. I've been following the work you're doing with the Resilience Foundation, and I have some ideas about how we might expand the legal support services. If you're interested." We met the following Saturday at a coffee shop downtown. Julian was older than I remembered, probably in his mid-40s, with graying hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He was soft-spoken but passionate about helping fraud victims. "I've been practicing law for 20 years, he said, "and I've seen too many people who can't afford justice. What you're building with the foundation, it's the kind of thing I've always wanted to be part of. We talked for 2 hours about legal structures, funding models, and expansion plans. Julian had experience with nonprofit work and connections to grant organizations that could fund our growth. I'd like to volunteer my time, he said. Not just a few hours here and there. I want to be involved in building this. Why? I asked. You could be using your time on paying clients. He was quiet for a moment. My sister was conned by her husband 10 years ago. He took everything and disappeared. She couldn't afford an attorney, couldn't navigate the legal system, and eventually just gave up. She never recovered financially. If something like your foundation had existed then, maybe her life would be different now. I understood. We all had our reasons for fighting. Julian became a regular presence at the foundation, working with Teresa to develop legal resources and training materials for our volunteers. He was patient, thoughtful, and genuinely cared about the work. And slowly, without really intending it, we became friends. He made me laugh during long meetings. He brought coffee when he knew I had been working late. He listened when I talked about the difficult cases and offered perspective without judgment. It wasn't romantic. Neither of us was looking for that. But it was companionship, and I realized I had been lonely. By November, the foundation had helped over 200 people. We had expanded to include financial literacy workshops, helping people understand how to protect themselves from fraud before it happened. We had partnerships with 3 other law firms and had received a grant to hire additional staff. I stood in our office on a cold November evening, looking at the impact map on the wall. Each pin represented someone we had helped, spread across our state and beyond. Teresa came up beside me. You did this, you know. This all started because you refused to be a victim. We did this, I corrected. You, me, Patricia, Julian, all the volunteers. Everyone who believed people deserved to fight back. But I knew what she meant. This had started with me, with my choice to not accept what Derek and Vanessa had done to me. My choice to gather evidence, to fight back, to seek justice. And that choice had rippled outward, creating something bigger than I ever could have imagined. The aftermath of betrayal didn't have to be just pain and loss. It could also be transformation and purpose. Derek had tried to take everything from me. Instead, he had inadvertently given me the most important thing. The knowledge that I was strong enough to rebuild, and more than that, strong enough to help others do the same. December arrived with snow and crystal clear skies. The year anniversary of discovering the empty bank accounts was approaching, and I found myself reflecting on how much had changed in 12 months. The Resilience Foundation had become more than I ever dreamed. We had just secured a major grant from a national victims' rights organization that would allow us to expand into 3 more states. Teresa had hired a team of case managers. Julian had established a fellowship program for young attorneys interested in fraud law. We were helping an average of 30 new people every week. At the hospital, the patient advocacy program I had developed was being adopted by hospitals across the region. I had been asked to write a chapter in a medical administration textbook about protecting vulnerable patients. My career had flourished in ways I never anticipated. But more than the professional success, I had changed personally. I was stronger, more confident, more aware of my own worth. I no longer defined myself by my relationship status or by what I could do for others. I knew who I was, independent of anyone else. One evening in mid-December, Julian invited me to dinner. Not a working dinner to discuss foundation business, but an actual dinner. I know you're busy, he said, sounding uncharacteristically nervous, but I'd really like to take you out. As more than colleagues. I looked at him, considering. Julian was kind. He was thoughtful. He had shown up consistently, supporting the work I cared about, never asking for anything in return. We had become close friends over the past months, and I valued his presence in my life. But I wasn't sure I was ready for more than friendship. Julian, I appreciate that. But I need to be honest, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not sure I will be for a long time. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get that. I'm not asking you to jump into anything serious. I'm just asking if you'd like to have dinner with me and see what happens. No pressure, no expectations. I thought about it. I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, trusting completely, loving blindly, believing that romance and partnership were the most important things in life. That woman had been destroyed by betrayal. But the woman I was now understood that there were different ways to build a life. Different types of connection. Different definitions of happiness. Okay, I said. Dinner. As friends who might become something more or might stay friends. No promises. No promises, he agreed. We went to a quiet Italian restaurant where we talked about everything except work. He told me about his childhood in Vermont, about his failed marriage 10 years ago, about his 2 dogs who were his entire world. I told him about my parents, about my dreams of traveling, about the garden I was planning for spring. It was easy, comfortable. There was no pressure, no expectation, no need to be anything other than myself. When he drove me home, he walked me to my door but didn't try to kiss me. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "I had a great time." "Me too. Can we do it again sometime?" "Maybe," I said, smiling. "Let's see." The week before Christmas I received a letter. It was from Derek, postmarked from the state prison. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was handwritten, 5 pages of cramped text. "Simone," it began. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I've lost the right to speak to you. But I need to say these things even if you never respond. I'm sorry. I know those words are inadequate for what I did to you, but they're all I have. I was selfish and cruel and I destroyed the best thing in my life because I thought there was something better out there. I was wrong. Vanessa didn't love me. I know that now. She was using me just like she used everyone else. I was a fool to believe her. But that doesn't excuse what I did. I chose to steal from you. I chose to betray you. I chose to throw away 15 years for money and excitement. I think about you every day. I wonder if you're okay, if you've rebuilt your life, if you've found happiness. I hope you have. You deserve it more than anyone I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking you to visit or write back. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I lost. And I'm sorry I was too stupid to appreciate it when I had it. I hope you have a wonderful life, Simone. I hope you find someone who treasures you the way I should have. Derek." I read the letter twice, then folded it and put it in a drawer. I felt nothing really. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering pain. Derek had become a stranger, someone from my past who no longer had any power over my present. His apology was too late and too inadequate. But at least he finally understood what he had done. I didn't respond to the letter. There was nothing to say. On Christmas Eve, the foundation threw a party for our clients, volunteers, and staff. The office was decorated with lights and a small tree. There was food and music and the sound of people laughing together. I stood in the corner, watching Teresa help a young woman fill out paperwork for a restraining order. Watching Julian explain legal options to an elderly man who had been scammed out of his pension. Watching volunteers answer phones and direct people to resources and offer hope to those who had lost it. This was my family now. These people, this work, this purpose. Patricia found me in my corner and handed me a glass of champagne. "Merry Christmas, Simone. Merry Christmas. You should be proud. Look at what you've built." I looked around the room again. "I couldn't have done it without you. Maybe. But you started it. You're the one who refused to stay down after being knocked down. You're the one who turned your pain into something that helps others. That's all you." We clinked glasses and drank. Later that evening, after everyone had left, I locked up the office and drove home. Snow was falling softly, blanketing everything in white. My house was decorated with simple lights and a wreath on the door. Inside it was cozy and peaceful. I made hot chocolate and sat by the window watching the snow fall. My phone buzzed with messages. Patricia sending Christmas wishes, Teresa thanking me for the bonus I had given her, Julian asking if I wanted to meet his dogs tomorrow. I responded to each one, feeling grateful for the people who had entered my life this year. A year ago I had been devastated, broken, lost. Now I was whole. Not because someone had fixed me, but because I had fixed myself. Not because I had found a new relationship to replace the old one, but because I had learned that I didn't need a relationship to be complete. Derek and Vanessa had tried to destroy me. They had taken my money, my trust, my plans for the future. But they hadn't taken my strength. They hadn't taken my intelligence. They hadn't taken my ability to fight back and rebuild and create something meaningful from the ruins they left behind. I had won. Not by destroying them, they had destroyed themselves. I had won by refusing to let them define my story. The new beginning wasn't about revenge or justice, though those had played their parts. The new beginning was about discovering who I was without anyone else's expectations or lies or manipulations. I was Simone. I ran a nonprofit that helped people. I had a successful career. I had good friends. I had a beautiful home that was entirely mine. I had a future full of possibilities. And if someday I decided to let someone like Julian into my life in a deeper way, it would be my choice. Made with clear eyes and a strong heart. Made because I wanted to, not because I needed to. The snow continued to fall outside my window, covering everything in fresh white, like a reset button for the world. I finished my hot chocolate and went to bed, sleeping peacefully in the house I had built with my own strength and determination. Tomorrow was Christmas. Next week was a new year. And somewhere down the line were possibilities I couldn't even imagine yet. Derek and Vanessa had drained my bank accounts and tried to dismantle my life. Instead, I had quietly dismantled their entire existence and rebuilt my own into something better than before. That was the truest revenge of all. And the happiest ending I could have asked for.